Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Luis Fernandez. School returns this week for traditional calendars around North Carolina. The new year may bring some new changes in the cafeteria. In July, President Donald Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, which, among many things, tightened eligibility for the federal Supplemental Nutritional Assistance program, also known as SNAP and Medicaid. Now, fewer families will qualify for SNAP and Medicaid, but they may still qualify for free or reduced price school meals. WRAL education reporter Emily Walkenhorst has been following these developments closely and joins us now. Emily, thanks for being here.
Of course, glad to be here.
So let's work our way from the ground up. A family of four is eligible for the program this year if their annual income is $41,795 or less. That's about 130% of the federal poverty level. So how many families across the state qualify for free or reduced price lunch meals?
Several 100,000. So we have about 1.5 million students in the state. There's, the free meal, and then there's the reduced price meal category. And so that's 185% of the income. And so basically with both of those groups, we've got over 70% of North Carolina students. That'd be over 1 million students are free meals or reduced price. Currently in North Carolina, the state legislature funds that reduced price amount. So if you only qualify for reduced price, you're still getting it for free. That just gets renewed with every budget.
That is, I think, for people who may not follow education, follow a lot of these things, that's a number that may surprise people to hear that many people qualify for this. So something like this that's impacting those programs, it's impacting a lot of students, a lot of families across the state. What are the main changes we're seeing with eligibility for this program with the One Big Beautiful Bill being signed into law?
So the main changes are more procedural. There will be some people, let's say some legal residents of the United States who aren't citizens may no longer be eligible. But for a lot of people in these programs, there's just a lot more paperwork to fill out, things like work requirements. And so there's a lot of concern that, if a person doesn't meet certain requirements or complete all of the paperwork, that they will no longer be eligible for those programs at SNAP and Medicaid. So that's the main change at the federal level. It's not that, the dollar figure is changing in a dramatic way. The main changes are procedural.
The procedural nature of that, right? I mean, how big of a problem is that for families involved? Is that something that is really going to either deter or prevent people from signing up for these programs?
So take the school meal program, for example. So for a long time, the way that program worked was you're eligible if you have a certain income. And they kind of, adjust that income level every year. But basically, you can apply if you, and you can get this benefit if your income is a certain amount. And the way they've always done that is basically through a paper application. And now you can fill it out online, but it's still an application. And a lot of families just don't fill it out. So there's supposed to be like paperwork in every principal's office. They send paperwork home with students. Hey, parents, if you want to sign up for this benefit, fill out these forms. There's always been kind of a concern that students aren't actually successfully bringing that paperwork home, or parents just, miss the paperwork, or they don't realize that they can apply for this online. And so there's always been kind of this research that has showed a lot more people are eligible than actually participate. So that's how the school meal program really works, or has worked in the past. And so the idea is, if you take your lesson from something like that, if you have to fill out more paperwork, things like that, maybe people just won't do it. And the tie-in with school meals is they got rid of the paperwork requirement several years ago and said, what if you're eligible for SNAP or Medicaid, well, that's an income level that would qualify you for school meals. So what if we just cross-referenced a database and we said, hey, well, this person qualifies for SNAP, their kids should qualify for free meals. Let's just directly enroll them. They can still bring their lunch to school if they don't want to participate, but they can get this base school meal for free if they want to. and they believe they've seen a higher participation rate among a lot of families since they did that.
What's kind of been the reaction to these changes from people in education around the state that you've spoken with?
So they're really concerned that basically a lot of kids are no longer going to be eligible. And there's really actually a trickle-down effect with that. So if you're at a school, a couple of kids are no longer eligible, you could really focus on them, make sure they get the applications, et cetera. That might be a pretty manageable outcome of all of this. But there's kind of a bigger issue because at schools, generally the percent is over 62%, but it gets wonky and complicated. But if you have enough students who qualify for free or reduced priced meals, then everybody at the school can get free meals. You have the option of participating in that federal program to all kids get free meals. So if you, let's say, had numerous kids no longer be eligible for free meals and they didn't fill out these applications to get, recertified as eligible, then perhaps your percentage dips low enough that you can no longer essentially afford to offer this program. Technically, the federal government might still allow you to participate, but you're not going to get reimbursed for enough students to make it affordable. So there's a potential for schools to just not be able to offer these free meal programs for all students anymore.
Let's go and take a quick break right there. When we come back, how these changes could continue to impact entire schools in the state. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with education reporter Emily Walkenhorst about changes to free or reduced price school meals in the state. So, Emily, you touched on a little bit there talking about the overall picture with schools. Can you tell me a little bit about the community eligibility provision specifically and how that ties into this big picture of a free and reduced lunch?
So community eligibility provision is a part of federal school meals law where a school could opt into it. And I think the base level is like 19% or something of students. I mean, it's like a relatively small percentage of students. If you have that many students qualifying for free meals, you can participate in a school-wide free meal program. But the federal government is only going to reimburse you for so many students. And so most schools that have that percentage just don't participate. They can't afford to do that because then they would have to come up with all this other revenue to pay for all of these other kids' meals. And they just don't participate. So there's kind of like this mathematical calculation that goes into it every year based on prices and reimbursement rates and all, who actually eats meals and who doesn't, and all these things that help a school kind of figure out, can we participate in this community eligibility provision? And more schools in North Carolina are doing this. They're hitting that number. They're hitting that happy good spot where they think they can offer this. The entire Durham public school system has free meals for all students because they've been able to hit those numbers in their schools. And so, I think it's over half of North Carolina schools participate in this program.
Wow.
It's a lot. I mean, it's hundreds of schools. A lot of them might still be able to offer these programs. Wake County's own projections indicate that they think most schools will still be able to participate in this program unless they have this massive drop-off of students. But they're still looking at, well, if we had a 10% drop, some schools are going to have to leave this program.
And I guess with some of these things, you're not going to know until people sign up for the programs or not. So what's next in all of this? Is there anything that local school districts are planning to do or are currently doing?
So, they're all getting ready for the start of the year right now. I've reached out to some of them. They're really just kind of contemplating it, right? Because this bill passed, I believe it was signed into law July 4th, so they haven't really had it for very long. A lot of these changes are really not going to take place until the 2026-27 school year. So they're really just having to plan for it. What can we actually afford? But then there's also complicating factors of the cost of actually providing meals to students is more expensive. So Wake County has raised the price of school meals by 1/4 every year for 4 years in a row. They're kind of trying to figure out how not to be in the red. So they're trying to do that at the same time that they're hoping they don't have to, lose any students from their free meals program.
That's WRAL education reporter Emily Walkenhorst. Emily, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, glad to be here.
I'm Luis Fernandez. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.